Hi, I'm Ian from the Double L channel, and these are the 361 Degrees Zen.00. First, a little bit more about the brand. 361 Degrees hails from the province of Fujian, China, and I would consider them somewhat of a second-tier brand competing with the likes of Peak, Anta, and Xtep. More about those guys in future videos. High-flying Orlando Magic forward Aaron Gordon is the current signature athlete, and former ambassadors include Kevin Love and Jimmer Fredette. In China, they have also signed some CBA players and swimming athletes as their ambassadors. Aside from basketball gear, 361 Degrees also produces running shoes and a range of other sports and athleisure gear. So I have a personal story to share about 361 Degrees. In 2008, I traveled to Yunnan, China for a vacation with my family. So one day we were walking past this retail store, and one of those stores caught my eye. There were some posters of Chinese basketball players, and as a basketball junkie at the time, I couldn't stop myself but to walk in and to take a look. And of course, I ended up with a brand new pair of basketball shoes from 361 Degrees. I'm pretty sure I was the only dude balling in 361 Degrees in Kuala Lumpur back then. They were significantly less well known back in 2008. Now on to the shoe. The Zen.00 is Aaron Gordon's signature shoe. You would have seen Aaron Gordon in this pair in the 2019-2020 shortened NBA season. I believe there's a total of 3 colorways, and what I have in front of me is the black and purple, which is my favorite, honestly. Officially, it's being called the jungle colorway, although I do not see anything about this pair that screams the jungle. Another cool colorway is the Orca Colorway, which is the black and white, and I believe they call it that because if you take a look at the top profile, it will look like a killer whale, which is pretty cool. And last but not least, there's the Kung Fu Dunk colorway, or the white and pink. A little bit too flashy for my taste, but what's cool about that pair is that underneath the outsole, the clear transparent outsole, there's a graffiti of Aaron Gordon pulling a dunk. So most of the marketing material for the Zens are made available only in Mandarin. So for your benefit, dear viewers, we have sorted through them and we're here to give you a summary. Knowing that it's just marketing talk, however, do take it with a pinch of salt. First, on the outsole, it says that these white rubber outsoles have groove patterns that mimic the fascia of the human feet. And because it's a clear rubber, for certain colorways, like I mentioned earlier, there are some design elements which looks quite cool. As for the technology behind it, we have quick foam. So quick foam is supposed to provide 60% more reactive force, whatever that means, than EVA. And in tests, it has supposedly been folded more than 70,000 times to give it 350% more toughness than EVA. As to the name of the shoe in Mandarin, it's called Change, and Chan means Zen in Mandarin, and hence the name of the shoe, Zen.00. Now on to the first impressions of the Zen.00s. First, let's look at the outsole. Now the outsole is made with clear translucent rubber, and my experience with clear translucent rubber is that they are sticky, which does help with traction. However, they are not as durable or hold up nearly as well as solid rubber, where if you're playing on outdoor and concrete courts. As a person who plays exclusively outdoors, I'm dying to find out how they hold up in the long term. So one thing that really caught my eyes about these guys is the generous anti-rollover support. Just take a look at the part of the outsole here, especially these parts that just juts out. So I think this is a bit of a double-edged sword. It will be rather difficult to sprain your ankles if you're playing in these pairs. However, if you do fall awkwardly enough, the sprain is going to be rather nasty. Now we'll talk about torsional support. So as you can see, there is a visible shank plate. It's not quite carbon fiber, I believe it's plastic, but torsional support should be sufficient. In the midsole, we have 361's proprietary technology, which is quick foam or quick foam light. So it is made with a variant of EVA, and is also widely used in 361's running shoes. So it's not quite as fancy as Nike Zoom Air, and however, on initial try-ons, I believe cushioning will lean plush rather than responsive. which would work great for thick boys out there, but maybe not quite as much for quick guards. Now let's turn our attention to the upper. First, I don't quite like the eyelets. I have a feeling that if I yank on the laces too hard, I'm going to rip it out completely. Right beneath the laces, we have the tongue, which is made with a mesh material. This should be great for ventilation, especially important for those of us living and playing basketball in tropical climates. Overall, it looks quite plasticky and it doesn't exactly scream premium. There are some interesting visual elements all around, which doesn't exactly provide any utility. And continuing on the trend of cheapness, if I were a betting man, I'm going to bet that this little part over here it's not going to last very long and it's going to fall out very soon.
Now, let's begin the performance review. First thing I will talk about is the traction of the Zen.00s. As I have shown when introducing the Zens, the outsole is made with a translucent rubber. I predicted that traction will be good since it feels very sticky. I'm happy to report that that is true, at least in my case. To clarify, I do play on a very rough concrete outdoor courts, as you can see on the video, and traction is rarely an issue. The painted concrete surface gives a very good grip, but at the cost of wrecking your shoes rather quickly. However, even with that in mind, the traction of the Zens gave me the sense of security that I liked when I needed to brake or to change directions or to attempt pull-up jumpers. The traction holds up favorably against the other shoes within my rotation, the Westbrook One Take PF, and also the other shoe I'm testing, the Anta Go Crazy 4 Crazy Tide 2. And yes, the Anta Go Crazy 4 Crazy Tide 2 is even marketed as a street ball and outdoor shoe, and it is still being outperformed by the Zens. What pleased me even more is this. Even when playing on a slightly wet court, like after it started raining or after heavy rain, I still managed to get a safe enough grip where I'm not slipping and sliding every time I go near a puddle. Here is a Screech Test for your reference, in case you're into that. Overall, traction is a solid 8 out of 10 for me. In the beginning of the video, I complained about the feeling of cheapness of the Zens, and I was pretty doubtful if they were going to last. So far, the Zens have held up pretty well. I've been practicing on my own with the Zens for about 3 weeks, about 5 sessions per week, with each session lasting about 90 minutes. No pickup games, thank you pandemic. While my practice sessions aren't intense by any means, I have not been babying the Zens. After 3 weeks, the grooves on the outsole are slightly worn out. Bear in mind though that I am a thick boy and I do play on a rough court. The wearing out of the outsoles are quite acceptable, and the grooves are deep and wide to begin with, so I predict that I can still get a fair amount of life out of them. As for the other parts of the shoes, happy to report again that aside from some creases on the midsole and the upper, there are no other visible signs of wear and tear, no paint chipping, no bits and pieces falling off or going missing, just creases. I had concerns about the eyelets as well. So far, I have not managed to rip them out, but I think I'll continue to keep an eye on them. This is a good sign for the durability of the shoes, and durability is a 7 out of 10 for me. For the level of comfort of the Zens, I would say it is a mixed bag. Ventilation is alright. Look, if you play basketball in tropical climates with any amount of intensity, you are going to get swamp feet, and I stand by that statement. And yes, the Zens did give me swamp feet, but the same can be said for every other pair of basketball shoes I've ever worn. Of course, I do think you get better ventilations from shoes constructed primarily out of the knit material on the upper. The Westbrook One Take PF comes to mind. So, despite the plasticky build of the Zens, ventilation was alright. As for the fit, it did fit quite narrow in the beginning, so much so that I was worried it was going to cut off blood circulation to my feet. So, it was pretty uncomfortable for the first couple of sessions. However, I gradually managed to stretch it out. Now it doesn't feel as tight and suffocating, and it even conforms to my feet pretty dang well. Comfort is a mediocre 6.5 out of 10 for me. Now, on to impact protection and court feel, which I'm sure most of you are concerned about. So here are my thoughts. The cushioning of the Zens does feel quite plush, especially towards the heels. I can comfortably jump and land, and the Zens have consistently given me a soft enough landing. As for the front of the Zens, the cushioning is thinner, but still generous enough and adequate for a day-to-day basketball movements, at least for me. After wearing the Zens for about a week, I swapped back to my daily driver, the Westbrook One Take PFs, and as expected, I felt that the Westbrook One Take PFs were definitely the more responsive low to the ground pair. The Westbrook One Take PFs provided an extra bounce when I pushed off the ground with the balls of my feet, and honestly the same can't be said about the Zens. However, going from the Zens to the Westbrook, the impact protection of the Westbrook actually felt quite anemic in comparison, and it made the soles of my feet quite sore after a practice session in the Westbrooks. Overall, I would reaffirm and say that the Zens aren't court feel responsive shoes. It is made more with the big man in mind rather than quick, speedy guards. Personally though, I am pretty overweight and I am in my 30s. So I do prefer big man shoes over guard shoes, and I prefer shoes with plush impact protection over a low to the ground court feel shoes. Impact protection is a 7 out of 10 for me, and court feel is, a 5 out of 10. Up till now, I've said many positive things about the Zens, but support and stability is where I have some complaints. First, as a mid-top basketball shoe, ankle support is adequate, no complaints there. Torsional support is good as well. Like I mentioned, going back to the Westbrook One Take PFs actually made the soles of my feet sore. So I think this is a good indication of the torsional support for the Zens as well. Where the Zen starts to stumble a bit is the anti-rollover support. The very wide base of the Zens does help with stability and preventing ankle sprains. However, it makes the Zens feel very clunky. The first few times I put the Zens on, I almost tripped over my own shoes, just due to how wide the base of the Zens are. Fortunately, this is something I managed to get used to after a few practice sessions. So, if you're a guard who needs to make a lot of quick cuts and needs to zip around the court quite a bit, keep this in mind. Support and stability is a mediocre 6 out of 10 for me. Overall, I would rate the Zens a solid 7 out of 10. I got the Zens for about 150 ringgit on Zalora. There was a pretty good sale going on at the time and I managed to pounce on the deal. Full MSRP is probably closer to 300 to 350 ringgit. That translates to about 75 to 85 US dollars. The Zens are also available on the 361 official stores on Shoppee and Lazada. Would I still get the Zens knowing what I know now? Well, let me tell you this. At around 150 ringgit, I would have no issues recommending the Zens to anyone. The Zens is one of 361's flagship model, and at the same price, your only other alternatives from the mainstream brands will probably be their entry-level model. The looks of the Zens, while subjective, is unique, and chances of another dude rocking up to the basketball court in the same pair will be slim to none. At about 150 ringgit, it also punches way above its weight class. At full MSRP, however, you would have your choice of mid-range models from the mainstream brands, or even some signature shoes from Adidas, and they will likely feel more premium with more interesting technology behind them. Additionally, 361 has also recently released the AG ones. So this is the successor model to the Zen.00s, and it's also Aaron Gordon's signature shoe. MSRP is slightly higher than the Zens. However, since it is brand new, it is in my opinion a better value proposition. Hope you liked the review. If you like what we do here, please like, comment and subscribe. A simple click from you goes a long way in keeping us motivated to publish more reviews and more videos. Thank you and see you in the next video.
我的 battery level 刚吃完饭是100%，现在已经89了。